How about another big witch hunt? We need to call their bluff and say, we're having hearings now because Kavanaugh is not going to have you demonize him in the news and then not be able to respond, whether you show up or not. Send your lawyer. We're going to show her high school. We're going to show her and her friends in Playboy bunny outfits. And we're going to demand in subpoenas that you bring your high school annual, because most of this is blacked out. And if you spreading your legs and women in French maid outfits and bunny ears talking about how they run into the highways to pick up adult men to bring them back to their beach condos, and if you're talking about blackface and Hitler, and you're talking about all of this when you're the politically correct Nazis who go around, saying if somebody has blonde hair, they're a Nazi. Well, you're making jokes about Hitler and have folks in blackface. By your rules, you aren't fit to be a ditch digger. And so Kavanaugh absolutely must demand to have his day now that he's been put through the ringer and lied about. He needs to be able to clear his name and march in there with his witnesses and say, here's her supposed witness. Never happened. I've never seen any of this. I was there. I don't remember this party. And now let's look at what she was doing then, because you've got the Heavy and others. Again, there's an article linked in the Cult of the First Amendment.blogspot. There's a link in here to the Heavy article. And Paul has a link too. I'd like to print that Heavy article, please. Where it described her last week as the ultimate angel cake. I mean, she was just the sweet little girl that didn't talk to anybody. And she just was really quiet in the show. I think it's a 6th grade photo, they're now saying. A 6th grade photo of her. And then this big Kavanaugh came in and he just broke her jaw. Threw her on the bed. And of course, they don't really say that, but they're implying that's what went on. And then now we learn it's all a gigantic, mega-size load of baloney. So, Kavanaugh must absolutely be able to face his accuser. But if she won't show up, if she'll launch the allegation and then not come and face him under law, under jurisprudence, under the statute of limitations, under everything, this shouldn't even already be a issue. But if we let her just put the lie out, and this isn't challenged, it will encourage others to continue this. No, you need to come in there and you need to face the fact that you weren't some little church mouse, that you were a wild woman in the school annual spreading your legs. And it was a culture of drunkenness and amnesia and sex and insensitive, racist, waspish, elite East Coast attitude. But again, those elites know that America's woken up to that behavior. So they now use that to police the rest of us that don't live and don't act like that. That's what they're doing. But even more importantly than all of this, everyone must get the articles at Infowars.com, and at Newswars.com, and at PrisonPlanet.com by Paul Joseph Watson, and the live feed of this show that's also posted there, and hammer it out to everyone, because they're going to try to block this. They're going to try to forget this. They're trying to pull her out of the news now all of a sudden. And they're trying to say, okay, maybe she's not going to testify, FBI investigation, let's just go away. They're probably readying another woman to come in and hope that we forget about this. No, we have them. We have her in this incredibly racy, bizarre, East Coast, eyes wide shut, elitist school. Where, believe me, if in the school annual, it's talking about wild sex and alcohol parties and blacking out and grabbing adult men off the highway on the beachfront and dragging them back to their condos. And this is just the school in general, and her being a leader of it, and her being one of the wildest, and her loving it. And, she's the only one in there spreading her legs. And again, this is the only part that they didn't black out. Half of these annuals are blacked out. Completely blacked out. Whole pages are blacked out. What in the world is going on here? What type of adults have created an atmosphere where this type of craziness is going on? Well, Rockwall, Texas was like this. It wasn't in the annuals, but it was going on. Let me tell you, one level up from, or one level below from this behavior, sexualizing the young people, was devil worship. And I ran into it many times, and it was institutional. It was big. It was bold. It was not a bunch of meth heads out in the woods killing their dog or killing some neighbor's kid. This was real deal stuff. And I've told you about it, and you're getting a look into it. This woman is from the establishment. She works for a big abortion company. She works for the globalists. She's connected to Soros. She is an operative. Every evidence shows. And I can't believe they thought we were so dumb that they would get away with it. I cannot believe they thought they would get away with this. And they may still get away with it. Maybe they're right. If you don't get this information out. But she's going to be somebody now, isn't she? She's going to say Kavanaugh, when she was just a sweet little girl, never been to a party, never did nothing when she was a sophomore. She walked in there and in came this big mean guy. Meanwhile, she's swinging off the chandeliers. Woo, baby, yeah. Woo, yeah.
Why do tech elites heavily restrict or outright ban their own children's use of technology? Bill Gates' kids aren't allowed to use smartphones after a certain time. We often set a time after which there is no screen time, and in their case, that helps them get to sleep at a reasonable hour, despite being an actual cyborg himself.
And I was human. I am human, still.
Mark Zuckerberg strictly limits his kids' use of smartphones and television. Asked if his kids loved the iPad, Steve Jobs responded, "They haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids can use at home." Chris Anderson, CEO of 3D Robotics and a father of 5, said, "We have seen the dangers of technology firsthand. I've seen it in myself. I don't want to see that happen to my kids." Alex Constantinople, the chief executive of the Outcast agency, restricts her kids' use of gadgets to just 30 minutes a day and bans them, period, for her 5-year-old. As Alice Thompson wrote, it's astonishing if you think about it. The more money you make out of the tech industry, the more you appear to shield your family from its effects. Authors Joe Clement and Matt Miles ask, what is it these wealthy tech executives know about their own products that their consumers don't? The most sought-after private school in Silicon Valley bans electronic devices for the under 11s. Why do these people endlessly promote the wonders of technology out of one side of their mouths while privately keeping their own kids away from technology? I'll tell you why. Because they know what they unleashed was designed to be addictive. Addictive behavior leads to depression. We have an epidemic of childhood depression. Hospital admissions for suicidal teenagers have doubled in the last 10 years. 62% of undergraduate students describe feeling overwhelming anxiety. Depression rates have leapt by 63% for teens and 47% for millennials since 2013. The ubiquitousness and overuse of social media and smartphones has correlated with a surge in youth depression. 8th graders' risk for depression jumps 27% when he or she frequently uses social media. Kids who use their phones for at least 3 hours a day are much more likely to be suicidal. And it all comes back to addiction.
I feel tremendous guilt. It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are. Your behaviors, you don't realize it, but you are being programmed. It was unintentional, but now you got to decide how much you're willing to give up.
And I'm not just talking about the dopamine hits you get from reading messages and notifications. Did you know that when you pull down on the screen to refresh your social media feed, it was designed to mimic pulling down on the handle of a slot machine? It was designed to exploit the same psychological susceptibility that makes gambling so compulsive. Variable rewards. Each time you're swiping down, it's like a slot machine, said former Google employee Tristan Harris. You don't know what's coming next. Sometimes it's a beautiful photo, sometimes it's just an ad. According to Lauren Brichter, the guy who designed the pull to refresh option, even though it could be made redundant, the feature is there to serve a psychological function, to keep people addicted. Harris also blew the whistle on another feature that was designed to encourage addiction. Those Facebook notification alerts were originally blue to fit in with Facebook's color scheme, but designers discovered that when they were blue, barely anyone checked them. So they changed the color to red, and everyone started checking them compulsively. Red is a trigger color, Harris says. That's why it's used as an alarm signal. So they're literally causing little anxiety alarms to go off in your brain when you see these red icons, an anxiety that can only be assuaged when you click or touch on them. A leaked internal Facebook report revealed that big tech knows when teens are feeling at their most insecure or vulnerable. They can manipulate when users receive likes or other notifications, ensuring they arrive at a time when the user is in most need of attention or approval. All of us are jacked into this system, says Harris. All of our minds can be hijacked. Our choices are not as free as we think they are. A handful of people working at a handful of technology companies, through their choices, will steer what 1 billion people are thinking today. We've also been turned into outrage addicts. Half of the news media cycle is now just stirring up or reacting to contrived Twitter outrage. According to former Google strategist James Williams, we've habituated ourselves into a perpetual cognitive style of outrage by internalizing the dynamics of the medium. We're also addicted to distraction. Did you know that even the mere presence of a cell phone in your line of sight, even when it's turned off, damages cognitive capacity? It's called continuous partial attention. Just by having it sit there on the desk, you're damaging your concentration. And have you noticed this? Even when they're not looking at it, people have to constantly touch their phone like a junkie with an involuntary body spasm. What's fascinating is that a lot of these techies are fully aware of the monster that they unleashed and are now full of remorse. Justine Rosenstein, the Facebook-like co-creator, says the social media giant has created a psychologically manipulative dystopia which only cares about profit maximization, and that it needs to be regulated like tobacco companies. Another one of the women who developed the Facebook like button installed a plugin on her own phone, so she doesn't even have to look at her own Facebook feed. Lauren Brichter turns off his own phone at 7 p.m. and regrets creating social media addicts. I've spent many hours and weeks and months and years thinking about whether anything I've done has made a net positive impact on society or humanity at all. Google and Facebook venture capitalist Robert McNamee says that the smartphone and social media have had horrific unintended consequences on society. He compares social media giants to drug dealers. The average cell phone user taps, swipes, and clicks a whopping 2,617 times a day. For heavy users, it's more than double that, adding up to nearly 4 hours a day devoted to cell phone use. And those numbers are over 2 years old, so it's probably even worse now. Go take a walk in the park. Despite the very point of taking a walk in the park being to get away from technology, how many people do you see buried in their cell phones? At this point, I'm seeing at least 50% of the people trapped in cyberspace, even when they're outside. People are so glued to their cell phones, they're now having to install ground-level traffic lights in some major cities. Forget virtual reality. How about we return to actual reality? Remember that? People at dinner on their cell phones, people in movie theaters on their cell phones. The CEO of AMC Theaters said, "You can't tell a 22-year-old to turn off their cell phone. It's like asking them to cut off a limb." There's a reason depression is exploding. And there's a reason why tech elites keep their own kids away from smartphones. They don't want their children to be sucked into this generational cycle of addiction, dependency, and unhappiness. That privilege is reserved for you.
All right, folks, that's Paul Joseph Watson's report for Infowars.com. Zombie smartphone apocalypse. This is perfect to show your children, your wife, your husband, whoever is living and obsessed with these things. They are designed to make you depressed, to take control of your life. They're very useful if you limit them for communications, for photography, for things where you're actively doing things. When you're constantly checking all the latest social media and constantly, this and that, and responding to everything, it robs you of your entire life. All the statistics, all the numbers show that. Now, when we return, the incredibly redacted high school yearbooks of Judge Kavanaugh's accuser, the binge drinking, the sex parties, the male sex dancers coming, photos in the same page describing her, where it looks just like the individual we're talking about, scantily, clad, basically spreading her legs, Christine Blasey Ford. Is this why she's saying she won't testify now? And the word is this whole hoax is collapsing? And what's in the redacted blacked out areas? Who blacked this out? We're searching, trying to find out. We'll also give the number out and take phone calls. Then Laura Loomer's got real sex crimes of Democrats coming up with medical records. Not a bunch of hype, not a bunch of bull. Stay with us. Well, something interesting started happening about 6 weeks ago. The social media, the Stanford profile, everything started getting deleted very, very, very quickly from Christine Blasey Ford's records. And then researchers on the 17th said, let's go look at her high school annuals. And since she'd been at parties when she was an 8th grader, she was in 5 of them. 5 of them, and most of them are blacked out, and she's all over the text. Her name at the parties and blacking out and being drunk, and there's parties with male escorts only wearing golden G-strings there in attendance. And then there's reports of Hitler jokes, and in the high school annual, there's photos of giant piles of whiskey and beer, because I guess the students did their own annual. And this is something the adults signed off on. So can you imagine, A, if the stuff in there is really, really wild, how bad it really is? And then B, what else did they really delete? Because, you know, we've got an image purportedly, and it says there in the article that she's involved in the parties, and it looks just like her. We have side by sides of the photo in the annual and the blacked out areas in Christine Blasey Ford. Maybe we can put that up on screen for TV viewers. And we've got girls talking about running out on the highway and blocking adult men's cars and then getting them to come in and, quote, pass out at a party at a house with them on the beach. The biggest thing is they talk about once you black out, then you don't have any guilt for what you've done and how great it is to be amnesiac about the night before. And so if she's saying, and they talk about her being amnesiac and others being amnesiac at these parties, not remembering what happened, then how could she then say with Kavanaugh, who no one can even prove was at one of these parties, from another school 36 years ago? And that basically brings down her entire push to have his nomination blocked. Oh, and guess what? Magically now, last night and today, she says, I may not even testify. And Senator Grassley says, you will come testify. You will be part of this. You will be there. Or we're going to go ahead and confirm Kavanaugh. She's like, oh, I want an FBI investigation, a new special counsel that has all these broad powers. Maybe we can find somebody in the Kavanaugh family that didn't pay their taxes. Because that's how this works. You know, looking for Russia, but we find taxes. We're looking for a sex assault, guy jumping on a girl 36 years ago at a drunken party, and we find taxes. Or maybe Kavanaugh, forget what color socks he was wearing 36 years ago on that day, and they'll get him for lying to the FBI. But don't forget, they had all these other sickening articles. Christine Blasey Ford's high school years, 5 facts to know from the Heavy about how she was this little sweet girl that wasn't involved in anything, and she was so innocent. And these bad things happen to her. You go and you actually read the stories on Infowars.com and Newswars.com and the Cult of the First Amendment that originally broke all this last night, and it goes through it all. Kavanaugh's accuser, salacious high school yearbook scrubbed. Why'd you scrub them? Why'd you scrub them? Christine Blasey Ford's yearbook describes wild sex parties, blackouts, erotic male dancers wearing golden G-strings, picking up adult men, taking them back to houses with them, parties where the girls wore blackface, also made fun of Muslims, and parties where they made jokes about Hitler. And that's what they put in the annual that the students put together. So I ask you now, can you believe anything she says when she's part of a school and a culture that she's in the middle of, according to these articles, blacking out drunk, but now she says she remembers everything about Kavanaugh? It makes one shake their head. It really does. There you have from page 145 of the school. And you blow it up, you look at it in the HD, the bone structure, the face, the smile, the hair, and it describes her at the parties in the article, but it's all blacked out. There you go. Now, regardless of that, she's at a school in this wild culture They admit she's wild in the culture. They admit she likes to black out in the culture. You've got the other students dressed up in Playboy bunny outfits and French maid outfits, dressing up like provocative sluts to go to these high school parties. What would you do if you opened up your daughter's junior or senior annual, school annual, from their junior or senior year, or even sophomore year, hell, freshman year? She's at these parties as an 8th grader. What would you do? That one right there on the side looks like her too. It's not as clear as the other one. What would you do? And her name's all over this. Oh, Chrissy, as she's called, loves to get passed out drunk. Boy, she was sure great at the party. It was amazing. You let your daughter dress up like a French maid and put bunny rabbit ears on, and now all these years later, Dianne Feinstein was in the San Francisco Chronicle on the 29th of July, right when Kavanaugh first got nominated, saying, we've got a memo and we've got proof and we're going to bring it out. They have a plan to stalk Kavanaugh, and we now know she had this 6 weeks ago and sat on it because they knew it was unraveling. And what do you do when something's unraveling? When it doesn't make sense, when it's got holes in it, you wait till the last minute. If it's a bulletproof case, you bring it out up front. But if it's not, you wait till the 11th hour, 58th minute, and then you slide it out. But people found this information when they found that she'd exposed her social media, she'd exposed her Stanford profile, and all this other stuff, and that her Democrat activist background and giving to Hillary and being a political operative and being someone that even produces and sells designer pussy hats. That's what they call them. The little pink, purple hats the leftists wear, and they're a symbol of hating men. But it turns out she doesn't hate men. She likes the power over men. If this information in these school annuals is accurate, now these are forgeries, I've never seen better. But see, there's not a response to this. And I know for days, reporters have been calling people asking about this, and that's why suddenly, oh, I can't testify now. I just want an FBI investigation. I'm going to accuse Kavanaugh. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to say all this. And I work for a big abortion company. I forgot to tell you that, the morning after pill. And I'm going to just then step back here as a political officer, as a political operative, as a public figure, as a bullying professor, as their students say, as a vindictive professor, and I'm going to see what happens. I think they need to have hearings. Kavanaugh needs to have hearings. And they need to bring all this out in those hearings. And they just subpoena her and make her testify. You made this claim. You said somebody sexually assaulted you. We want you to prove it. Now, that said, they don't want us on air because we will cover stories like this when other people will shy away because there's a major intimidation operation going on. And that's why with 47 days left from this general election, from this midterm election that is as big as the last general election, we need your financial support. And we make it really, really easy to do. We have the best books, the best T-shirts, the best water filter systems, the best air filtration for the prices, and we have the best supplements. And folks, we've got Super Male and Super Female Vitality, even though they've been bestsellers. They're cold pressed, very expensive, very hard to produce, very proprietary. This is the last run of Super Male and Super Female Vitality, at least in this concoction. And it's excellent. If you want it, 50% off, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. And I'm going to have to end this special coming up at the end of the weekend because it's been so successful. It is our last shipment of X2, the Deep Earth Crystal Iodine source. We may try to get a new source. We're trying, but it'll be a long time probably till we're able to do that. We're really trying our hardest. We may have a big breakthrough, but we'll see. But for this formula of the original amazing X2, the Deep Earth, good halogen, the pure iodine, just you've got to read about it. You've got to read the 6,000 plus 5-star reviews. InfoWarsStore.com. InfoWarsLive.com or 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139. And you can call, you get 25% off. As of Monday, it's going to go back to full price. Still a great deal until it sells out or until we get a new formula. So get your X2 today. Also 40% off BioTrue Selenium from the mustard seed. Super pure, super organic, incredibly amazing. Experience that. $50 off an Alexa Pure Breeze. Leading competitors are $500 to $600. The same ion 4-stage filter. They just mark it up 5-6 times. This is normally marked up 100%. Right now it's marked up 50% with $50 off. That is an incredible deal. Take advantage of Alexa Pure Breeze. I put one in each room, but really want to do 3 or 4 rooms, regular size rooms. We've got them all over the office. They're amazing. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 253-3139. And as you're purchasing the products that make it all possible, so I want to salute you and thank you. But let me tell you, this is a big story, and we have to punch it out. We have to get it out. We have to force it out. We have to expose it right now. Stay with us, Infowars.com, Newswars.com.
Fox News reported, according to the 2010 census, around 89% of Hialeah residents speak Spanish as their first or second language, and more than 94% identify as Hispanic or Latino. That's why the now fired Taco Bell employee who couldn't take an order in English, the United States' native tongue, probably felt like she had done nothing wrong.
She's trying me on purpose. You see this? Ma'am, so no house. Nobody here speak English. Nobody in the back speak English. No. So you can't take my order. You don't understand what I'm saying? But you speak something though. Yeah, but I want to order food. No hay nadie que hable inglés. Yo. Mi vida, tengo carro atrás. No, I want to order. You not finna tell me to leave. I want to order. I want to eat. 29 Call police on me. She call the police? I'm trying to order and she's telling me I can't order because she don't speak English. Who's wrong? What did I do wrong? I'm trying to order.
Damn foreigners, get them back out.
¿Te puedes mover, por favor?
They can't speak English, get them the
fuck
out.
Order food. Hay nadie que hable inglés. ¿Te puedes mover? That doesn't make any sense.
Hialeah, Florida could be regarded as a relocated Cuba. The city has the highest percentage of Cubans and Cuban Americans in the United States. It is vitally important that Americans understand the level of non-assimilation we are facing in the United States. Significant portions of our own country are becoming increasingly foreign.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, the menu.
Que ellos no entienden el menú. That doesn't make any sense to me. This is not making any sense, and this is not right. Señorita, se puede mover. I'm not talking to you. She doesn't want to help me because she don't speak English. But you know the menu. You work here, so you would know what I'm talking about if I say I want number 6 on the menu. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you just don't completely shut me out because you don't speak English. That's not fair. You understand what I'm saying? So if I say I want a number 6 on the menu, you can put that on the computer and take my order. Don't tell me you can't take my order because you don't speak English. And look at she still says she don't understand. That's crazy. It's okay. I'm going to take down the store number. I'll be here tomorrow. What's your name? Luisa. Luisa, okay. I'll be here tomorrow, Luisa. Okay.
As bizarre an incident as this was, it isn't uncommon when our border continues to be overwhelmed and there are roughly 12.5 million illegal aliens, transforming once proud cities like Hialeah, Florida, into the third world countries they left behind.
And out in nearby Dearborn, where the Rouge River runs into the Detroit River, you can see the largest automobile plant in the world.
And you can see the damn paperheads took it over, the bastards.
That's a lot. I mean, there's in the suburban area, there's only 6 million people living here. It just affected everybody. The millions of people that were living the American life, those jobs went to people that own factories in foreign countries. And everybody was afraid to say recession, depression, just like they're afraid to say
sand niggers in there.
Terrorists.
Make sure we put them in there.
God bless Donald Trump. Let's make America great again. God bless America. We don't need Clinton. America's good.
Chris, just straight up, do you think the president should right now end this policy of separating families?
You know, I think you're wrong there. It is a law, and the law needs to be enforced. Regardless, if we don't like the law,
what
we just
is
can't
the
decide
law?
which law we're going. As far as you come across that river illegally, you're subject to arrest and the prosecution. You will get arrested and you will get prosecuted. We've had this situation going on for 4 years now, and for some reason we haven't fixed it. I don't think you can necessarily blame it on one administration or the other. It started under one and it's continuing under another. It hasn't been fixed, and it needs to be fixed.
John Bound reporting.
It is Thursday, the 20th day of September 2018. I'm Alex Jones, your host. We have huge breaking news on the Kavanaugh nomination. Suddenly last night, his accuser began to come out and say that she didn't want to testify to Congress. She wants an FBI investigation when you can't have an FBI investigation. It's not a federal issue. There's no statute of limitations. But I guess they could create a new special counsel just outside of law and do whatever they want. They've already done it. Why not? And so now Senator Grassley and others have said, okay, if you don't do that, we're going to go to the full vote on Monday. You tell us by Friday when you're going to testify next week. You're not going to block this. You do it. Now, I wonder why she did that. I just got information from a national source, very credible. I'm not going to name. Extremely credible, that Christine Blasey Ford was an absolute crazy maniac in college. And the information that is in these yearbooks is, as you expect, a precursor of what was to come. You have to go read it for yourself. It's on Infowars.com. It's on Newswars.com. Her high school yearbooks were removed from the internet. Copies were then found by researchers, but they were heavily redacted. In some cases, whole pages blacked out. And she's mentioned in the very pages where a young woman appearing to be her, same bone structure, same face, is scantily clad, slutted out. But regardless, the women, period, are dressed like Playboy bunnies, playmates. They are wearing maid outfits, bent over, wearing bunny rabbit ears. They describe male escorts coming and dancing in golden G-string thongs. They describe dressing in blackface, making fun of black people, making Hitler jokes. It is insane. And all these articles on the racism and the sexism and the blackout culture, where they say, oh, I don't remember anything. Oh, we love it. And they talk about Christine, who they call Christy, loving to black out, loving to have a great time, and the girls running out and blocking the beach highway and picking up adult men to take them back to their condo, and how the guys blacked out. Oh, we all blacked out with a bunch of guys. Oh, we blacked out again. We blacked out. We blacked out. And I guess that way younger women think it's like, I remember being in high school, some girls like dragging you in their bedroom at a party or whatever, and they like kind of lay there, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. Oh, no. Get back on top of me. Anybody who grew up in the 80s, I think, has experienced that. The 80s were pretty wild. And you know, and I guess that goes on. That's a younger immaturity thing where the girl's aggressive. She wants you to be in bed with her, but she wants some weird, plausible deniability. Well, I never wanted to have sex with a sack of potatoes or, you know, a zombie. And so I never did that. But that was the thing that went on. And it's incredible. And you're reading this, and it's like giving me flashbacks. Oh, we all went to this party with a bunch of college guys, and we all blacked out. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun the next morning. Oh, my God, what we did last night was, woo, we really blacked out. But she says she remembers Kavanaugh doing this, but her eyewitness says none of it happened. So no wonder she's pulling this back. But what I've said is Kavanaugh cannot let this happen. He can't just let him put it out there and then she withdraws her testimony that puts this cloud over his confirmation in the future. He needs to march into Congress with big old blown up screenshots of what was quoted and comments about her and liking to black out and being drunk and the partying and how she was a party girl. Because this is her at the time she said she ran into Kavanaugh. If you go to mainstream news, just go anywhere and type her name in. It'll show her in like 6th or 7th grade, real sweet. Oh, hey. They don't show you the young, wild woman in the high school photos. So, what's coming out, ladies and gentlemen, is more of this, because I have sources and again, getting into what happened out at Stanford. Did you think she was wild in high school? And see, that's why the Dems said, man, she's willing to do it. But man, her stories have got a lot of holes in it. Wait till the last minute, roll it out. And everyone will say, oh, can't question a woman, can't do this, even though she's Democratic Party operative, even though it's incredibly obvious, even though she works for a big pharma company. There's another big report I'm going to be getting back to in the next segment. I actually left it in my office with her incredible ties to big pharma. So that's going to be coming up. But first, let me just do this. What do you think Kavanaugh should do? How big is this? They're using this to distract from the jobless numbers. Claims are the lowest in 49 years for the third straight week. The economy is set to be announced the next month to be at 4.8% growth rate. It's all amazing. So, let's not be too confident as all of this comes out. What are they going to pull next? They have another woman ready? And the minute that woman pops up, we've got to be out there looking at their background, who they are, what they've said, what they've done to impeach them. This is all as clear as the sun coming up in the morning. But are they going to wait till just the day before the vote so there's no way to check them? And by then they would have already expunged everything. Because they got around to getting rid of her high school annuals only 3 days ago. When they learned people were asking questions about what was in them. And a little bird told me they are getting access and have access and are scanning the unredacted annuals right now. And they say, if you think what's not blacked out's bad, you're about to find out why it's blacked out. And then Kavanaugh needs to raise that. How dare this person erasing her record? When my record's not erased and I have a good record, say this about me when I've never met her. And now she wants to put the charge out and then not let me face my accuser. That's wrong. And that violates due process. And that's a fraud. And then the Democrats will start learning that when they attack and tell these lies, we're going to strike back. And we're not going to put up with it, because Feinstein admitted to the San Francisco Chronicle over a month and a half ago on July 29th that she had been sitting on this and stewing this and getting this ready. That's right out of the San Francisco Chronicle. So here's the toll-free number to join us on this issue, on the economy, 47 days out. What do you think the globalists are going to pull? What are your concerns? But it's the midterms, Kavanaugh. What do you make of this bombshell? Toll-free number to join us, 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. That's 877-789-ALEX. Let's go out to break, though, with the president breaking it all down.
And said that they really don't do that. That's not what they do. And now they have done supposedly 6 background checks over the years as Judge Kavanaugh has gone beautifully up the ladder. He's an incredible individual, great intellect, great judge, impeccable history in every way, I feel so badly for him that he's going through this, to be honest with you. I feel so badly for him. This is not a man that deserves this. This should have been brought to the fore. It should have been brought up long ago. And that's what you have hearings for. You don't wait till the hearing is over and then all of a sudden bring it up. When Senator Feinstein sat with Judge Kavanaugh for a long period of time, a long meeting, she had this letter. Why didn't she bring it up? Why didn't she bring it up then? Why didn't the Democrats bring it up then? Because they obstruct and because they resist. That's the name of their campaign against me. They just resist and they just obstruct. And frankly, I think they're lousy on policy, and in many ways they're lousy politicians, but they're very good on obstruction. And it's a shame, because this is a great gentleman with...
And that's exactly what all of the internal Veritas documents coming out, with all these bureaucrats and socialists and globalists in the government. So, we're 47 days out from this historic election. Historic is putting it mildly. The economy's turning around in so many ways because globalism was designed to suppress us. Kavanaugh is such a key nominee because they want a bunch of leftists that will confiscate the Second Amendment, that will overturn basic capitalism. We see all these candidates going communist, going socialist. Kavanaugh's not perfect, but he is light years better than some of the people he is going to be replacing. That's my view. But again, look, I'm a libertarian, live and let live type guy. And, I have a very, very conservative lifestyle these days in my life. But when I was in high school and college, I was pretty wild. So I don't look at people like Kavanaugh's accuser and hate her because, according to her school yearbooks, she was quite the tart. At least she was behaving and acting like a piranha-like slut. But what is it about all these leftist women then that use sex as a weapon and then point it at whoever they want? And as a psychology professor, she's got a 0 rating, out at Stanford. And her own students hated her. And now she wants to come out and make unsubstantiated, unproven claims. Her own eyewitness says none of it happened. It's not true. Now she doesn't want to testify. She just wants to leave the lie out there and not have Kavanaugh be able to respond to it. It's outrageous. So I don't judge Christine Blasey Ford for
come on
drunken parties in high school and the things they describe. I do blame the parents. I mean, adult male strippers with golden thongs dancing in front of 15, 16, 17-year-old girls. That's perverted. That's sick. And you've got all the, racist talk. We've got a Don Salazar with a big article about to go up on Infowars.com. In fact, it may be up there right now. We should check. I know it was minutes ago about to go up. These are things that need to be looked at because this woman who has a bad record at college, a bad record with her students and ratings, a record of being a Hillary minion, a record of being vindictive, a record for having all these problems, we're supposed to just believe her 36 years later, have the whole corporate media embrace her. And then have her not show up and testify because she wants an FBI investigation when there's no such thing. Here's some of the ratings. Rate my professor, 0.0. And here's some of those ratings. I've just seen you guys putting them up on screen a lot, so I figured that's what you wanted. But yeah, there you go. Oh, it's a 0 because even the reviews themselves have now been scrubbed completely. It's simply amazing. The establishment is going in and just censoring everywhere. The censorship isn't just ending with me, folks. It's a total culture of leftists trained and prepared to murder the truth, to murder justice. She works for a big pharma company. And that's what she's doing. In fact, here's the article right now. We posted it on Infowars.com. It's from Mike Adams at naturalnews.com. Kavanaugh accuser Christine Ford exposed for ties to big pharma abortion pill maker. Effort to derail Kavanaugh is plot to protect abortion industry profits. And I totally agree with Mike Adams' analysis. She's a huge lobbyist for it, pushes for it. She's written a whole bunch of papers trying to get it approved. She's on the payroll of it. And now we understand that they think Kavanaugh won't support the morning after pill. As you've seen in the media, they claim he won't. And that's what this is really about, is cold, hard money and population reduction. Isn't it always about that every time? That's amazing. So we're going to look more at that coming up. Again, the toll-free number to join us, 877-789-ALEX. We've got a lot of people that are holding here that want to talk. The first person I'm going to go to is Brad in Pennsylvania. Brad, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex, thanks for taking my call, and obviously, great job covering this story. Again, it's always the same, as you point out, and most people don't get it unless you're paying attention, but they always throw up a smoke screen like, oh, in this case, he supposedly groped her, which we don't know, but I seriously doubt it based on everything you're throwing out there. And it's,
well, sure, 36 years later, the way she now won't come out and testify. She works for Big Pharma. She loves Hillary. She works for the Democrats. We've got all these witnesses. You've got her back when she says she's this little sweet girl, so scared. Meanwhile, you go to the yearbooks, they talk about her like she was one of the biggest maniacs in the school.
Stinks to high heaven, and you're exactly right. I'm older than you are, about 10 years. So back then, the culture, it sounds like that could have been my yearbook, not personally me, but I know exactly what you were saying. Things things were wild back then in certain respects. So,
even by the late 80s, if the cops caught, you at a party with a bunch of beer, they wouldn't really do anything. And this is just what went on. Exactly. So I read this, but the male strippers, though, for high school girls, I never heard of that.
Well, no, but they might be bigger, more money in that town she's from or whatever. So,
it's a super ultra rich area. She's definitely
with my video,
and
guys.
you're exactly right, man. This is totally Feinstein cooked this up with her. She's a big lawyer. She's working for Big Pharma against the fact that you brought that out against the abortion issue. I mean, this stinks to high heaven. She's got to be lying, or they just cooked this up.
Well, here's the bigger news. Why are they suddenly wanting to pull her testifying? I think it's because all this is coming out, and they know there's even more there.
Yeah, and you said they wiped her social media. That's a smoking gun right there too. I mean, these people are crazy, and most of us, the conservatives, we're on the defensive. Why, I don't know, but in the media, we're always on the defensive.
Let me ask you that question. Don't you think the hearing should go ahead and Kavanaugh should get his name back? Just because she makes the accusation, doesn't show up at court, doesn't mean you don't show up. I think you march in, put big projections of her up, have her classmates about how wild she was, college people, and how she's a Democrat, how she works for Big Pharma. I think we bring it all out.
No, it's a great idea, but do you think that's going to happen? I seriously doubt that's going to happen. But it'll be great to see how this plays out. But it's cuckoo land, man. You deal with it every day.
Let me ask you this: why do you think they brought somebody this shoddy out, a Democratic operative, an abortion company operative, somebody with this wild of a past? Because there's more about to come out, believe me. I just talked to some national folks. What do you make of why the Democrats are this desperate? Is it just Trump derangement syndrome?
Well, no, I think they just want whatever they can do to block it. And like you said, they waited to the last minute. I mean, you're all over this, Alex. You're brilliant on this.
Oh, no.
You're right. Waited till the last minute. You're trying to block it, whatever they can do to stop it. And they'll probably interrupt the hearings if they go ahead with it. They're going to do some more shenanigans during the hearings. They will.
Oh, there'll be women there going, you rapist, rape, when they're not even accusing him of rape. 36 years ago, there's no proof. Her eyewitness says it didn't happen. Now she wants an FBI. It's like having an FBI investigation of the crucifixion of Christ. It's not their jurisdiction. There's no area to do it because of statute of limitations. It's clearly political. It's done in the 11th hour. It's what Trump said. He was the real genius here. Why when Dianne Feinstein had Kavanaugh in the hot seat for hours weeks ago, did she not raise this? Because she was sitting on it premeditatedly. We're called straight ahead. Stay with us. The entire hoax of Christine Blasey Ford's high school years, that she was this wonderful little choir girl, little sweet church girl, is all going up in flames as the high school annuals come out. Going to show the most crazy culture of rich kid, adult male dancers dancing in G-strings in front of young women, blackface parties, talk about getting drunk, blackout drunk, in the school annual. I'm talking about Chrissy, as Christine was known, being a leader in all of this, and photos and articles that mention her and appear to be her scantily clad in sexual provocative positions. And again, imagine if this was Judge Kavanaugh and one of his yearbooks. Why, it'd all be over. But it's her. So even though this has been out for hours, no coverage of it. Gateway Pundit article. There's a Cult of the First Amendment.blogspot.com article. But see, because we still have chivalry in this country, even though women engage in political operations, women engage in deception, women engage in all this, we know they do. They're in a man's world. We still sit back as men and go, okay, we're not going to say anything. But see, the big telltale sign is what she said. She's looking at withdrawing testimony last week, and Senator Grassley and others have said, you must tell us by Friday, that's tomorrow, or you're not going to be in hearings. We're not going to delay this if you won't come. See, I think Kavanaugh needs to go and talk about this, even if she doesn't show up. Let her lawyer show up and put up the school annual on the screen and talk about the Democratic Party connections, and then talk about the really big news that's up on Infowars.com and Newswars.com, that we're going to cover now and then go to your phone calls. Kavanaugh accuser Christine Blasey exposed for ties to Big Pharma. Abortion pill maker effort to derail Kavanaugh as a plot to protect abortion industry profits, says Mike Adams at naturalnews.com. Story is also at Infowars.com. Kavanaugh accuser Christine Blasey Ford, who claims without any evidence that Kavanaugh improperly touched her at a drunken party while in high school, turns out to have an abortion pill pharmaceutical company called Contracept Therapeutics. Major ties to it. This discovery brings to light an obvious conflict of interest in Blasey's story, revealing that she works for a pharmaceutical company that manufactured an abortion pill drug whose profits could be strongly impacted by future Supreme Court decisions on abortion rights. And it's called Corcept Therapeutics, manufactures and markets an abortion pill drug called Mifepristone, and Christine Blasey Ford is a co-author of at least 8 published scientific papers produced by this pharmaceutical giant to promote its pills. You can see Blasey's name listed on several publications at the website for the company. Corcept Therapeutics, Inc. is a $166 billion market cap company, stock symbol CORT, reportedly has current annual sales of $216 million. Company offers just one, and its brand name, Korlym or Corcept, is currently marketed by the company for the treatment of Cushing's syndrome. And then it goes on. The FDA-approved drugs is frequently prescribed off-label, meaning doctors prescribe it in conditions that it's never been approved.